Even
There we go. I'm trying.
Yeah, we got it now.
I'm trying.
Yes, sir.
I see us. There we go.
The second time the charm.
That's right.
That was bizarre, but okay.
Who can we?
All right.
Let's blame Greg.
I think it's Greg's fault for sure.
His fault. Greg, I want to know what you have to say about the troubles you've given us tonight. Nothing? Oh, okay.
So for those watching this after the fact, we tried this one time and it didn't work on stream I think it was actually on YouTube, and so Ryan just uploaded it, and here we are again. So we are good now.
Here we go. So
what's going on, fellas?
Just living the dream.
I was just going to say that, living the dream. That's it.
Right?
I've got a coworker that says, "But what kind of dream?"
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a guy that I had performed a cutout for, I don't know, a month and a half ago or so ago. And he said, I'm living the dream too. He goes, it's my wife's dream. I said, I don't know what to tell you. You know, you have to make the best of it, I guess. I don't know.
That's it.
That's pretty funny. I like it.
Funny. What is this little blue? Oh, new. Huh.
What? Where?
New on here. No, on YouTube, I have a members only live stream. New.
I guess that means you can do that if you want to.
Yeah. That's weird. I see this little number 1 over there. Anyways, bees. What's happening with bees?
Who do you want to start with?
There's not much for mine to gather, I'll say that. I don't know what it looks like in the north, and I don't know what it looks like in the extreme south. But here in the middle of the Midwest, the gateway to the west, it's very dry.
Yeah.
Going on, let's see if I remember this. I don't know. It's just several weeks. I can tell you that. So much like what, Brian, I think you guys up in Ohio had experienced last year with a pretty extreme drought, actually. I wouldn't say that we're in the extreme, but we're definitely in a drought condition, you know, the feast or famine scenario. it's been pretty dry. So but we might have some relief coming in this Saturday with some storms and such. So we'll see what happens. But without rain, without the plants, the bees don't do as well, and we have to supplement, which is not as much fun, and I don't think it's as beneficial too. Mother Nature can provide something that's great, and I think we fall a little bit short in those areas, it seems. So we've been feeding a little bit.
Yeah, up here, I guess we'll go to the areas where there's not much beekeeping going on right now, and then we're going to hear from the south where they enjoy beekeeping 11 months out of the year. So and they sit there and they laugh at us, northern beekeepers.
That's right.
But up here, I was able to get into the bees the other day. I actually filmed another video, believe it or not. It's good that I got out. I went out both Monday and Tuesday and checked the bees. And it's good that I did so because we've got some cold nights. Like tonight, they're saying we're supposed to get a frost.
Wow.
I had one colony that I thought I had taken all of my queen excluders off. And I had 2 of my colonies where I left an extra super. They were finishing capping things off, and I thought I'll just let them have it, just leaving extra stuff out there, and then I was going to equalize throughout the yard. And it's a good thing that I went out Monday in that because there was a colony that I missed a queen excluder on. So thankfully we haven't gotten extremely cold yet where I would have ended up having that blunder to deal with. But I got everything all situated. The small little teeny colony that I had said is probably not going to make it. I opened it up the other day and literally there were bees on, mainly one and then stretched out onto another. So I looked at it and I thought, today's your last day. So pulled it up and I found, they had requeened at some point. So she got squished and then I just combined it out. And then I found another one of my colonies that it was annihilated, robbed out. I knew it was robbed out when I walked down in front of it because you look on the ground and you just see, World War III massacre. And I took one look and I thought, I'm going to tear this thing down today too. So there's 16 over there that I'm pretty comfortable with. They got treatments going. They've got syrup on them. And they're sitting good. I mean, I lifted a couple of the colonies just to check. And I mean, even one of my apimays, I lifted that darn bugger. And I would bet that thing's over 100 pounds.
Oh, nice.
It is just, I mean, they are heavy.
Yeah. That's what you want, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My colony that has my infinity frames in it, there's only, I think, of the 10 deep and then 10 mediums that are on there, there's only the outer mediums that do not have anything on them for right now. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I mean, it is just, when I open it up, even the seams in between the frames, they hit it waxed and propylized all up. I mean, it was sealed, and I'm like, yep, I'm not bothering you right now. So, but yeah, they're pretty darn solid. So I'm quite content with going into the winter with 16.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I have a question for both of you guys, and this is something that I thought about the other day. We had Bill Heschbach at our club meeting last night, and he talked about the condensing hive. He kind of jokingly said, yeah, he goes, I have several talks that I am proficient at that he delivers. And he said, but I've been pigeonholed into this condensing hive one. But I'll tell you, it's really good. And there's not a lot of beekeepers or scientists that really talk a lot about that area.
Yeah.
But the one thing we talked about a lot of different things, but, setting up for winter primarily and the condensing hive and such. But mm-hmm. One thing that kind of come to mind with me is, and this can be a little bit different for you, Brian, as Bruce, because obviously we're several hundred miles apart. north to south, right? And Bruce just quite frankly doesn't see much of a winter, if you will. But
Yeah.
my question for everybody would be this, and this is something I think that people could think about. What is the last inspection you do for the year based upon your season or fall season? And what is it that you're looking for before you really don't need to do any more inspections? Like, let me preface that. At some point in time, going into the late fall, any any happenings inside the hive, basically, I guess is what I'll say, is you're not going to change the outcome of the colony. Like this should have been done months in advance, right?
Right.
Besides maybe feeding. I mean, especially for us and probably for you, Brian, at this point in time, you're really not going to correct a queen issue. If a colony has extremely small numbers, like you just said, Brian, frame and a half, it's probably pretty unrealistic that they're going to thermal regulate with one frame of bees in your climate, whereas Bruce's may be different. So I guess my question would be, at what point in time do you guys feel like, as a general rule of thumb, and this could be a moving target, do you feel like that the last time you get in there and do maybe a queen right inspection, look for colony health, try to correct any problems, mite loads are in check, and about the only thing you can do beyond that is feeding? What would you say that looks like for you, Brian, as far as timeline?
I tell you, I hate, if I can truly avoid it, I hate pulling any type of frames getting into October.
Yeah.
I just really, I mean, like you said, there's no need. By this point, once you hit that time in Northeast Ohio, if you have not fixed whatever situation has occurred, it's done. It's just like the one that I went out and looked at. I knew that it was going to be done. And my whole thought was, you know what? Instead of messing around with this little thing and trying to baby it, I'm just pinching that queen, throwing the bees with another colony. If they want to fight a little bit, let them fight. The little teeny frame worth of bees that I put in there, they'll learn real quick who the boss is.
That's right. Absolutely.
So they'll straighten out their attitude very fast, or they're going to have a very short life.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. I agree.
I like, even getting towards late September up here, I just hate messing with them like that, because earlier September, I'll go through and assess everything. How are the queens doing? How are they looking as far as food, things like that? And then after that, I like a lot of my colonies, I just won't touch.
Yeah.
I've learned up here that if you have queen issues in September up here, you can get them to requeen, but they end up dying in February, January, February, they're dead. So it's at least up here, I don't even mess with it anymore. If I have colonies that are going through issues like that, they just get combined out. I just do something with them because I do not want to baby them anymore.
That's right.
So, it just gets to a point where you have to cut your losses and just look at what is going on, and understand that, Mother Nature is happening. And like right now, I mean, we're 50 degrees, but they said tonight, like when I was watching the news, they said once the sun goes down, we're going to have probably in a 3 or 4 hour period, like a 20-degree drop. We're going to hit like 34 or so tonight. So it's like, what are you going to do for those colonies that are small?
Not much.
Nothing. And then if, like, even that one, she started to work. There was on a frame, there was a decent little brood pattern, but for the number of bees that were there, would they have been on these cold nights? Would they have even been able to manage that brood? So that's
I doubt it.
And it just gets to a point up here that I've learned that, though. I mean, trust me, I haven't always been the beekeeper that was able to look into the future, so to say, and say, yeah, this is not a good situation. Okay, let's shift some things and save, whatever, if I save 1,000 bees in another colony, I just combine them over. I
Mhm.
wasn't always that way. I tried to. I had one where I brought a small little cluster home with me, save them in the house.
Yeah. Brian, I think I did that one time myself,
Yeah.
but this was actually not going into winter, it was coming out of winter. I had two nukes that were
Oh,
extremely small. I'm talking like 2 frames of bees, and this was coming out of my first winter, and I had 8 colonies, and I was not going to accept any defeat whatsoever. So what I did is I didn't bring them in my house, but my garage that's connected to my house
oh,
very rarely drops below freezing, and most of the time will stay significantly warmer because it's mostly insulated, you know. And so what I would do is I would screen them up at night, bring them in the garage, and I'd leave them in the garage until the sun came up and it got warm enough. I would take them out in the front and I would unscreen them, and I did that for probably a few weeks, right? And I didn't lose any colonies my first year. Went into 8, came out with 8, and they actually ended up being good producers.
wow.
For me that next year, they built up just fine. But I knew if that colony having just very few frames of bees, where they were not going to be able to thermoregulate through those cold spells in my area and be able to make it. And I'm pretty confident had I not done that, they would have expired. But
Yeah.
would I do it again? I wouldn't. But when you're a new beekeeper, you'll take more risks and try different things that you otherwise wouldn't when you have scaled up a little more, or you have more experience, or you just understand things in a different way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I had a similar
Oh, yeah.
one like what you were talking about there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, for right now, like I said, where I'm sitting at, I think everything is good. I think the colonies are, eh, everybody's queen right. Everybody is doing, I have no complaints with where they're at. So, like, when I did the combine the other day, I mean, I think I even filmed it and I said in the video, I said, well, this is the last time I'm looking at brood until probably April.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just won't touch them. So,
Yeah. Well, and another thing that made me think about that too was when Bill Heschbach is talking about the condensing hive. Part of that has to do with if people notice that the bees, when they start going from that mode of increase and population growth and bringing the resources in, and then they go to that survival mode, which for most people right now, the bees have transitioned. You can't get them to draw any comb. The temperatures aren't warm enough. They're not stimulated.
yeah.
They understand that the mode has changed. They have reared some winter bees, like my area, your area. They've been working on those, right, and probably going to be trailing off before too long on those nests for that particular. But they'll also start using a lot more propolis. So the bees late in the year for me, or what my bees are kind of doing in my area is I notice they'll start propolizing all these gaps, and they start to really close that up and tighten that down and keep all those little bitty air leaks out, basically, except for the way they want to move air in and out, move the gases around inside the colony. So I don't know, it kind of made me think about that a little bit more. And, Bruce used to use this word pretty frequent about being intentional. And I think that after you go through a couple or a few seasons, you have some failures, you have some successes, and you start to understand what beekeeping looks like in your specific area. And I know we've all chatted about this many a times, but beekeeping is so local. Everybody kind of talks about that. And it really is localized specifically. Bruce is not going to do the same things that I do, or vice versa. Same thing with you. Even you're a little bit different than me. So
Yeah. Bruce's colonies, they don't even raise up winter bees. They raise up their winter bees, they live for a week. They're the shortest lifespan winter bees known to mankind.
they have their swimming suits on year round, basically.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
We need to move our bees down to his area then, and then they
Exactly.
can wear their swimming suits and just enjoy the south and the
Yeah.
the cool breeze coming off the ocean and all that good jazz.
Right. Bruce, when of what Tom was asking, when is like that final cutoff or down in your area? Like if you have anything going on and you need to play around with colonies like that, is there like a final date where you're like, okay, call it quits with this colony here? Or do you have
Well,
a date?
yeah, I mean, I don't get in them a whole lot really from now on out. I mean, it's not going to really hurt them down here. Today we were 85. 60 low, 85, and everybody's talking about how nice it is, how cool it was, how chilly it was last night. It was like 59 or 60 degrees. So, but we even in November, December, January, we'll have a day here or there. We may have a couple of cold days where it's freezing, and then within a week we'll be up to like 50s, or 60s, and so. But we try to stay. I try to stay out of them right now more than anything else because they are trying to kind of settle in for. They're kind of trying to settle in for winter, and they. I mean, I'm not sure how. I mean, I know they probably make winter bees, but we have brood here year round. They're not in full out spring, / summer mode or honey mode down here year round. They do back off a little bit, but we do have brood in there. They back off some. We do have brood in there pretty much year round. And so I'm not getting them much now. I'm kind of just treating for mites. I'm using some OAV. And but I do plan to take some mite checks here in a couple of weeks and see how it's worked. I did have a problem, I think I mentioned in a previous video, with some mite counts. The Viroxan sort of kind of kept them under control a little bit, but there were more mites than I wanted. And so I'm just hitting them like crazy with OAV, high dose. I know people tell me I probably don't need to hit them with as much as I do. It's not going to hurt the bees. I'm probably overkilling a little bit, but the word kill the mites, that's what I want to see. Even if it is overkill, you can't overkill the mites. And so I'm using a lot of OAV. I'm hitting them hard I'm going to do 5 to 6 weeks in a row. I've done 3 and I'm going to do probably 2 to 3 more and then check and see what I got. So it'll be probably early to mid-November when I check them. And a lot of places have sealed them up for the winter then, but I can go in, I can check them, and you can really go do inspections about any time of the year. I just don't want to. Unless I find a problem, I just don't want to. As far as fixing queen issues and things like that, it's just about, unless you have access to queens, you can't, it's really almost, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's pretty late in the year to be able to, you really can't make good queens now. It's difficult to do that. And so, and it's hard to find queens now this time of year. So pretty much, if I see queen issues or hive issues, super weak colonies, I'll stack them together. I'll combine them. I really prefer my bees to be in double deeps in the wintertime. They aren't all in double deeps. They'll overwinter fine here in singles and even in nukes, but I kind of prefer that because it sets me up for spring to be able to make easy splits that way. But as far as just getting out of them, not getting them at all, locking them down for the wintertime, we don't really ever have to do that. Mm-hmm. Think about almond pollination. The guys that send them off to almonds send them off in January for almonds. And so you got to be building them up. You got to be trying to feed them then in the wintertime. And what I typically do for feed in the wintertime is if I need to feed them, which I'm going to use Hive Alive. I've been using that fondant last year. I used it for the first time. I put 3 rounds on there, and the bees came out of winter looking great. Now that's pricey, but worth it to me. The bees I had coming out of winter this year were the best I've ever seen as far as how they looked. But you can actually set open feed out for them in the wintertime, because if it freezes for a couple of days, they won't visit it. And then if it warms up to 55, 60, 70 degrees, they'll just go out and get it and bring it back on the warm days. And I did that. That's how I used to feed my bees all the time, build them up for pollination. I just put some open feeders out there and try and keep food in them, and they would put on weight that way. So you're never really completely shut down bees in the hives for weeks on end. That just doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but as far as getting in them, I don't like to get in them much from here on out. I'll do some spot checks here or there, but it's not going to hurt them to do inspections, but I don't really need to. Mm-hmm. They have kind of propylized things down. They do that here too, as well. They'll propylize it down in preparation for winter. Mm-hmm. Really like to be, the bees that I have just like to be in that double deep configuration with the perfect dome, brood down below, a little spot of brood kind of in the middle down below, and up into that second box a little bit, and honey and pollen around. Front to back, side to side, and they just love that configuration. And then, of course, sometimes we mess it up when we do late summer splits like I did, but they were really looking perfect coming out of the honey harvest this year as far as the configurations. I think I've just kind of become a fan of the double deeps.
Yeah.
Even though I have some that are deep in mediums and some that are in singles, but I really prefer the double deep. It's just, to me, it's so much more forgiving,
Yeah,
going into winter that way.
I agree, and that's the same way I approach it. Double deeps, and it's just more forgiving for me.
Yep,
I got
it
sick
is.
of lifting deeps. So
I'm sick of doing what?
I got sick of lifting deeps. That's
Yeah,
why,
it's heavy.
like, my single brood, it's kind of like a hybrid, I say, just because,
Sure.
like, right now, well, really, when I pull my fall supers off, the queen excluders come off, so then they have a deep and immediate. Now, come springtime, when they start, you know, it's just all timing, but when they start bringing in that spring nectar, and I have supers on, typically what I'll do is about a week or so beforehand, I'll throw excluders back on, in between the deep and the medium. I'll make sure the queen is down in the deep. So that way, for the entire year, from when I've got supers on clear to the fall, my queens are in that one box. So it's kind of like a hybrid time. But
Mm-hmm.
in a way, it gives me, I've got an entire medium that they have worked on all year that it stays on, it's theirs. So, and pretty much all of my colonies,
Yeah.
they've got honey in that medium. So, I think it works. It works for me. So,
Yeah,
it works.
everybody's a little bit different. Just gotta
Yeah.
learn what worked for you. But that's what I do. And but just right now, just not a whole lot. I'm not in them much. I'm visiting them every week, but I'm not really doing. My biggest thing I got to do now is I've got some boxes and stuff. My bee yards are looking kind of junky because I got boxes sitting around that I tipped on in for dead outs and things like that. Some of them got hive moth or wax moth damage in them, and they're kind of ruined. And so I just got to get all that stuff cleaned up in my bee yards and just go ahead and keep checking them. And many times you can tell if if you're walking through a bee, you can tell if there's one that's sick. You could pop a lid and see if they've been robbed out or died out, or if they're weak or whatever. But if they look good and healthy bees on the front porch and they're flying around, I just leave them alone pretty much now, except for the treatments.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You can tell a lot. Like the one guy that I was mentoring this year, he's back and forth from up here in Ohio to down in Florida. He's all over the place. And we finally lined up. I went over to his place earlier today and took went through his two colonies with him, and it wasn't really going through them. He had two deeps on him, and I looked at him, and the one, they were pretty much just down in the lower. So I told him, I said, get that deep off of there. They didn't even build out comb on 7 or so of the frames. So I said, just get it out of there. And the other one, they kind of did like a pyramid almost type. They had like 7 frames in the lower. They were 10 frame boxes, and then they had like 3 or so in the top. And I said, we're going to combine that down. So I just kind of shifted stuff over and made sure that colony, every frame, had drawn comb and that on it, got feet on them. And I told him, and he was asking, he said, what do I do now? And I said, keep feet on them. I said, if you see that we're going to get a hard freeze, flip your buckets over. That way your syrup doesn't purge down on them. I said, and that's it. We'll pretty much all of October and probably some of November. I said, you'll feed them, get their weight up. I said, but literally all you do now, I said, you're not going to, I said, don't get curious and try and pull frames.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let them glue everything shut. And I said, in the springtime, then you can crack the seal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, today in going over his place, when I shifted just those couple frames, I had one that had a little bit of brood on it, and I took a look at it, and I looked at him, and I said, Mike, that's probably the last brood that I'm going to see until springtime. So you just don't look,
Yeah.
Don't need to.
I don't know about you guys, but there's a point in which I actually don't mind a little bit of a slowdown and kind of a drawback, because when I call it that firefighter season, when you're playing that firefighter, Bruce, you run a couple hundred colonies. Brian, you work, a lot too. we all have to deal with family and then, run, 20 or 30 colonies. I mean, let's be honest that it can be a lot at times. And, we all understand and know that the bees aren't going to wait for our schedule to clear up because we have to go here or there or wherever. They're going to do what they're going to do because that's just how nature takes its course. So we're the ones that have to make adjustments ourselves. So, when you get through that, again, I call it the firefighting season, and you're always go, 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 and always trying to take care of things. There is a point in which that, and everybody has different degrees of burnout, but you're just like, yeah, I'm just kind of ready to kind of settle back a little bit and kind of going, not really an idle mode, but where you don't have to get in them as aggressively and make manipulations and fix problems and so on and so forth. So there is a point in which I actually don't mind that, typically,
I don't either. Yeah.
Even with our landscaping season, it kind of more or less, generally we'll work all the way through December, but January and February can be iffy. It just depends on temperatures. What's going on here in St. Louis. If it's warmer, sun shining, there'll be more things to be done. If it gets really cold and freezes up, it shuts it down. But typically by the time that we get into the end of February, things will start to loosen up. Generally speaking, you'll start getting some warmer days, and then we go right back into the landscaping work again. So, and people are like, what do you do in the winter? And I'm like, I don't want to do anything. It's like, when I say that, I just mean, of course, I do a lot of stuff. I'm prepping for the next year. We're getting things together. It's paperwork and all kinds of stuff, just ramping up for the next season. You're setting goals and putting those goals in place and trying to get things prepped for those, whether it be beekeeping, landscaping, or whatever it is that you do. And that's a prep time. So it's nice to be able to go in a little bit more of that idle mode and just kind of settle back. So again, I don't like the cold, and I don't like the dreary days. I don't like it getting dark at 5 o'clock, but there are beauties about that too. There's God put these seasons of change in there for a reason, and everybody's may not look exactly the same. Bruce's is not going to look the same as ours, Brian, but I think those seasons are there for a reason. It's a reset of sorts. So take the good with the bad, and
I tell you, the other day when I was over and, I don't know, it was either Monday or Tuesday when I got the last of my honey done. I did get a bucket from the fall, so I was like, I'll take it. I mean, starting the year how I did. And, and then they said we had the driest August on record in like 40 years up here.
Wow.
I'm like, how they even made any honey, I have no clue. I'll take it. But like, I got the extractor is clean. I got all that stuff cleaned and shined up. It was just like, when I was done with that and I'm looking in there and I got boxes stacked, I even like on the floor in there, just, you get propolis and stuff that falls down, you step on it. I took the flathead shovel and went through and scraped the floor some, and I kind of stood back and looked, and I'm like, yep, that'll do, kid.
We kind of did a little bit of that ourselves today. So we weren't out working in the field per se, making money. But what we were doing is, I told my boys, since both of my boys work for me, I said, okay, this is what we're going to do today, guys. I'm like, we've got some honeydews that we need to get done here around the house and things like that. I'm like, this needs to be clean, that needs to be clean. I have to go up, and I just made 60 migratory lids. And I made 25 double screen boards, and I've got like 36. I use a lot of the top feeders, like your Man Lake top feeder or a Saracel top feeder. And I needed to make some more boxes for those for our increase that we had this year. But anyway, so basically I was doing a bunch of painting on those because I used the HDO material and I wasn't going to wax tip those. So I was painting that and going back and forth. So our day consisted of getting things ready for winter. We power washed the house, got it clean, power washed the deck. Again, just buttoning things up. And it's part of the beekeeping season that you don't really think about, but you have to get things in order and get things prepped for the winter so that you can start to get your things in order, your checklist or their honeydew list, what have you, for the next upcoming beekeeping season. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, you need to be making plans this year, even in the middle of the season, for what your goals are going to be for the next year. And then you start moving toward the goals. If it's increase, great. If it's just making 2 more splits, that's a goal. Whatever it might be, put those things in place so that you can have a greater success. And again, you're not last minute trying to put out a fire that could have been prevented a month or 2 months ahead of time. So, everything in due season, and try to think ahead when it comes, if things are out of our control, but do your best to plan ahead, set goals, and work toward them. Right. So
I just typed out Bruce's goals right there.
Maybe someday, but not until I'm done working full time.
that's a good goal. It's a tangible goal for Bruce too.
Yeah. Well, if I could, if I'm doing what I'm doing in 2 days a week, if I went full time, I should be able to do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
So.
So I kept saying 18 was going to be my number. And do you want to know honestly what just the other day I was kind of looking at things, and when I took care of the 2 that I took care of, I'm sitting there looking and I'm like, you know what? 15 for right now, just with everything going on, I'm like 15 production hives. It's the key word there, production hives. Seems like a fan. Look at that right there. I got balloons and stuff.
The screen's agreeing with you.
15 seems like an excellent number for production hives. I can run 8 colonies in my back row, 7 in the front, and then there's that area that I cleaned off to the side. If you're facing my apiary, it's to the left. There's 5 trees I need to cut down over the winter. That's going to be one of my projects over the winter. Is I'm just going to go over when, normal time, when Saturdays or whatever, when I would be working colonies, I'll just go over and I'll cut a tree down, and I'm going to get that set up. And then I need to decide, I'm going to put, instead of individual stands like what I have now, I'm going to put up probably a 10-foot or so bench. That way I can set nukes over there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kind of bank off to the side any of those extras. And then, I may sell a couple. I don't know. I'll see how things look in the springtime. But then if I end up in a queen situation, okay, let me just walk over there and grab one.
Yep.
So that's what I think. I think I'm going to end up with 15 production, and then that little teeny row over on the side, and then it'll be smooth sailing. I can more self-maintain my apiary. I won't have to run off and do this and that. And I want my apiary to be able to maintain itself. So, but I think that'll be good. Now, if I get into a rhythm, would it be easy for me to bump it up and go up to 20? Yeah. I've got the equipment to do so. I don't know. I think 15 is a good number. So I was looking at also the honey, the amount of honey that I need. And if I get anywhere between with 15, I should easily be able to get 750 pounds. I was thinking, I'm like 50 off of each one is, that is easily do that. So, then you're looking at 750 pounds of honey up to probably 1,000. That'd be perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, we try to keep about 15% ish, give or take, nucleus colonies for our production colonies, specifically for what you just went over, Brian. You can plug a nuke into a colony that starts to fail, queen goes missing, whatever the case may be. You can take a nuke out and plug it straight into there. You can even do that during the middle of honey production. If you have a queen that you want to replace queens, and you say you've already made up some earlier splits and grown them up to 3, 4, 5 frames, and you want to remove that queen or remove the queen, just plug your nukes right in the middle of that thing, and then just keep going. You don't even lose any steam. Ian Stepler has a great video on the nucleus battery, and I'll tell you, people should go on YouTube and actually watch that. This is scalable. It doesn't mean if you have 3 hives, you have 200, you have 1,000, and whatever percentage you want to do. Again, I've chosen to work around that 15 or so percent, and it works out well for me. So if I have extras left over, I take them into winter. I can bring them out of winter, and I can sell them as an overwintered nuke at that point in time. We can gain a little bit more money off of each one of them, So, if you have some in the, the season, moving through the season, it gets later and you're like, you know what? I've got plenty. I've built an extra 3 or 4 nukes. I'm going to let a couple of them go. Maybe, get a little bit of cash flow going for some things that you may need for fall feeding or something, who knows?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Bruce, what, for looking at like next year, I know you've been itching to move.
To do what?
I know
to make what move?
To make a move.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna retire one of these days, fairly soon. I'm still from my real job, my regular job, but we're not quite there yet. So, hopefully in the next couple of years, I might be able to do that. Hopefully, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But we have. I've got my colonies that I manage. I manage 6 colonies for a friend of mine as well, and he kind of just pays me to manage them. And then I got another opportunity coming up in the spring that somebody's going to have me manage a fair number of colonies for them. I think more like 16 colonies, so that'll be good. And that's another source of income. Now, people ask me sometimes, they're like, "How do you do that? How do you figure out what to have someone pay you to do that?" You just have to kind of figure out what works best for both parties. I can't really tell you if you live in Missouri, like Tom, like I can't tell him how much he should charge someone to manage bees on their property. It's just going to be different there. So just like when people talk about honey prices, like you'll see people on forums or on groups on YouTube say, "How much for a pound of honey?" I'm like, well, I mean, it's way different in Dothan, Alabama than it is in upstate in like New York City, Manhattan. You know what I mean? It's probably we're going to get probably less than half what they get up there for a pound of honey. It just depends on what the market will survive and what people are willing to pay. You can charge as much as you want, but if nobody's going to buy it, you can't make any money. So you got to figure out where the market is, what's comfortable for you to move the amount of honey you have, and then what people are willing to pay. There are quite a few hobby beekeepers around here that will charge like what I think is a really high price, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But they might have a couple hundred pounds to sell, whereas I've got 11,000 pounds to sell. I can't sell it for that price. And sometimes I think they get a little irritated at me for selling it for a lower price. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I got to get rid of my honey, and it's not a real low price. I mean, I think it's a fair price. It is for me. Mm-hmm. The market kind of decides, and same thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing. That's kind of my next little avenue of a little bit of extra income coming in. I'm not going to grow a lot, I don't think, as far as my personal operation. I like the number I was at this year. It was pretty good. I think I was around 130 to 140. I think I had about 100, give or take, production colonies this year. And then I made some more splits in the late summer, and some of those have moved on. Some of them have not made it, but I think I'm about 135 probably now, 130, 135, which is a pretty good number for me. I got up to 150 for a short time, and that's just about what I can manage, comfortably. And then I've got the 6 for my buddy that I manage, and then another 16. So that I'm going to do and set up in the spring. I'm working with Greg to get that all set up. So that's going to be kind of a neat opportunity. But it's about, probably 30 to 45 minutes away. It's not right here local. But now they're gonna treat me right. They're going to treat me right on this thing. And so the guy told me, he's like, "Make it worth your time to come up here." And so that's what I'm doing. And so, but I just had to. My wife and I sat down and we talked about it. What it would take, and I talked to consulted with a couple of their beekeepers, and we kind of came up with a price that we feel like is fair. And so that's why I'm not going to tell anybody what that price is, because it's not. You may or may not get that much wherever you're at, whatever the situation is. And so, but I'm kind of happy with the number I've got. I mean, it's a pretty good number. I was at my honey storage place, little closet we got up there, little room we got to store honey up at the farm, and I counted the buckets of honey I have left. We harvested about 185 buckets this year, and I still have over 100 left. And so I got a lot of honey to sell. But we've definitely made a dent in it, but there's still a lot to go. But I do. This is the time of the year for me. I'm not really in the bees that much. I do need to get everything cleaned up and kind of get things ready for next year. But also, I'm selling a lot of honey. I've got several stores I sell it at. I've really kind of gotten into the candles lately, and I love these things. They're just, I've kind of figured out a process to process the cappings wax, and it's so pretty.
Because bugger up again.
Just a beautiful color. It's just beautiful, and it smells so good. And it's just cappings wax from our harvest this year. and probably ended up with, I don't know if we got 200 pounds, maybe 150 to 200 pounds out of our cappings this year. Maybe a little, I don't know what it was. I didn't keep track this year, but so I figured out a way to kind of process that wax and get it perfectly clean. And then it's just really neat to do these candles. And actually I've got these little bears I do as well. I thought they would be a big seller, but they haven't sold that great.
Mm-hmm.
But these pillars, I've only been doing them for a few weeks, and I've already sold quite a few of them. They're just beautiful. They're on the website, brucesbees.com, if you want to check them out. But man, they're awesome. They burn. This thing is about probably 6 inches tall, maybe or so, about 2 inches in diameter. And it burned, the one I burned to practice burned for almost 35 hours. So it was amazing. But,
I see you had made that post on there, and I'm like, that is a good, everybody was kind of stimulated to answer that. Everyone's like, hey, and I was really surprised to read what that looked like, as far as the timing. And even I was off pretty far, but I felt like I shot pretty high. And I'm thinking to myself, I knew what certain candles that we had burned ourselves and how long it took for perspective. And I'm like, and even I was low on the number that I put on your post that you had, Bruce, as far as the time that it would burn. So
yeah, it's just so clean and it's just beautiful. The candle, and the picture that Brian just showed is kind of, it wasn't, where I actually burn them is in the living room. It's a little darker in there. So that it looks a little better in there, but actually once it gets down to the even with the top right here, it starts glowing about 2 or 3 levels down, and the candle just glows in the dark. It's really pretty, but
it's nice.
Anyway, but yeah, and a lady, one of my viewers or one of the people on Facebook, its max weight of the pillar candle, it's around 11 ounces plus or minus is what it weighs. I think they're all a little bit different, but it's right around that between that. I think on my website I put 12 ounces, just that ship kind of to make sure we cover it for shipping. But it's right around 11 ounces, give or take a little bit. It might be a little bit less than 11 ounces. It's just incredible. You can go on Better Be where I got the mold for this, and there's got like 30, 40 different candles. There's so many different candles. And so you can just go crazy buying the molds, but I just really like this one. It's a pillar candle. So it's going to burn long and it's going to burn uniform, and it's got a little design to it. So it's not just straight up plain. And I just think they're beautiful, but
yeah, those look
nice. So that's kind of what my last little, I've kind of gotten obsessed with it. I actually bought 2 more of these molds so I can do 3 at a time now. And anyway, I've got plenty of wicking and plenty of wax and plenty of molds now to last for a while. And Brian's going to send me. Brian made a little. We're going to see if we're playing with a little experiment. I went to one of my stores and I told him I was going to start doing these candles more. And down here in Dothan, Alabama, it's considered to be the peanut capital of the world. And so I went to a place. It's a local company called Shoot Pecan Company here in Dothan, Alabama, and I said, would you be interested in these candles? She said, do you have any candles in the shape of a peanut? And I said, you know what? Let me see what I can do. So I got online and looked, and I didn't see any candle molds for peanuts. So Brian actually 3D printed me a couple of different sizes of peanuts, and I'm going to see if I can figure out how to pour the molds myself. And we're going to see. It's an experiment we're going to do here to see if we can make some peanut candles. For that store. But if anybody else wants, one of them's going to be 3 inches tall, which is this little bear is about 2.5 inches tall, I think.
Yeah.
So it'll be a little taller. And the other one's going to be 5 inches. It's amazing, Brian, how much bigger that 5-inch candle mold looked than the 3 inch. It looks way bigger.
Do I still have the pictures on my phone?
I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. It's all fun. It's a lot of fun. But I just love how just the pure smell, the beeswax. It's almost addictive when you start doing that kind of thing. It can just be addicting. So.
We put it in a similar way that you had, Bruce. So when we, start with a new candle mold, we'll buy like one, and then we'll pour it. We'll take it to the market a few times, and if it seems to sell, and it sells well, we'll buy 3 or 4 of that same mold, and then that way when you can pour, that looks really good, Brian. I like the larger one. You can see the
all them little indentations and stuff. Yeah,
that looks good.
Yeah.
So you basically made the positive for the mold that Bruce will
try to pour. Yeah, we're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah.
Have you done that before? Have you ever tried to pour your own molds, Tom?
We have not. We've only purchased them. Honestly, I'll tell you, if people are looking to get into it, I'll tell you 2 places that we think are great, and they have a lot of them. Better Be is one of them. They have a lot of molds, and the molds are quality. They're not, mediocre. The other one is called Bee Light. Forget the name where they're at exactly, but Bee Light. I might have some stuff up here at the top actually, but anyway, they have a lot of different molds that they make, and they were actually at Nobby. We also seen them in Louisiana a few years ago when we were down there for a conference, and picked some stuff up. But
I think they're either from, it may be the group that Mike Berry mentioned to me. I think they're either from Louisiana or Texas, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but I think that's where they're from, possibly.
Yeah.
But I think they'll make custom molds for you, is what Mike told me, if that's the company I'm thinking about. I think that you can just ask them. Like, I reached out to them about possibly doing, I think that's them. I reached out to them about possibly doing a peanut for me, but I never heard back from them. I never really actually talked to anyone there.
They lost out.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I like this. It's going to be fun doing this, Brian. We might be able to create a new thing here.
In all honesty, I mean, I don't see where there will be any hiccups in the process, because you've got the peanut, the two different ones. The silicone that I found on Amazon, this silicone, Tom, that you basically you mix, it's 1-to-1.
okay,
You mix that up, pour it in, let it harden. That's it. So really the only thing that you're going to have to do is find some type of like a tube or something where you can, and you're going to have to, probably what you're going to have to do, Bruce, is you're going to have to probably attach a little string onto the peanut. That way it dangles so that you have a bottom. You'll probably want about 1 inch on the bottom.
Well, the bottom will be that's going to be, you pour the candles upside down. So I'll just put the bottom in the bottom of the mold flat, and that'll be the bottom. True. And then I'll fill it up as full as I need to leave a little room for that wick, and then I'll punch a hole through the top where it needs to go through. So
that is true, yeah. Because and I did those, Tom. When I did them so that it's not a complete peanut. I shaved off
so flat on the bottom.
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess if you have a way that you can secure it so that it sits right there, then I mean,
I think I'm just going to use like a solo cup or something. I'll have to look and see. I'll get a cup or a cylindrical can or something that I can figure out to be the right shape, so it'll just fit right down in there. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. But anyway, we're talking about bees, but that's just, I kind of just went down this rabbit hole, and now I'm obsessed. I'm pouring candles every day, and I just processed my second batch of the beeswax and the Thorn wax melter, 25-gallon wax melter, and man, the wax is just so pretty when you do it. If I'm finally figuring out how to get perfectly clean wax without just having to constantly try and re-clean it and make it through, melt it multiple times, it just turns out really pretty. And so still I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, Tom, do you have one of those? How do you do your wax? Do you have a Thorn wax melter?
No, we actually bought one last year at Nobby. I believe that was Dancing Bee, which is a Canadian company, if not mistaken. But they also have a distributor. I think it's a distributor that's down here somewhere in the States, up north somewhere. But we actually purchased it through them. So somebody who has a small one. So ours, I want to say, is maybe 4 gallons. So it's not huge. Okay. And now we only put in there already clean and I mean, ready to use wax, whether it's, ready for candles, ready for the lip balm stuff Melissa makes, all that. She already clarifies the whole thing, basically starting with a solar wax melter. Then she melts it all down and runs it through it's like a grease filter basically. And it really cleans it up tremendously. And then from there, it just, when we get them all nice and clean, she puts them in blocks on the shelf and pulls them off as she needs to. And then puts them in that 4-gallon, it's a heat jacketed, water jacketed tank. Basically, I think it's 4 gallons, but and that's all we use it for. And she can pour straight out of there into her little, what do they call the little stainless pitcher looking thing that you can kind of pour out of? Melissa does all that stuff when it comes to all the edit items. That's Melissa's department. I do all the heavy lifting and just different things like that. Melissa's really good at the fine tuning and her and I both come up with ideas on things and stuff, but when it comes to the small execution stuff, which is the real tedious, but very important portion of it, Melissa really handles a lot of that stuff. So,
yeah, I've got The one thing that I've kind of trying to figure out now is actually the wick on the bottom. I actually just kind of put a couple of mason jars next to it and just lay something across them and lay the wick over the top of those to kind of hold it until it. But I've seen these little clips or something people use, and I don't know what those are, where to find those. I'd like to figure out where those come from, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you call those. I'm not sure even how to look them up.
That
I don't know
metal?
what they are exactly. It's just a little piece that sticks up a little bit, and you just kind of stick the wick up in, and it just holds it in place while the candle. But I've been putting up, looping it over the top of a pencil or scissors or whatever I can lay across those two jars or bottles or whatever that I have there. So that's just something that I know it's easy to find. It's worked out well for me, but I'm getting to where I'm doing more at a time now. So I need to figure out a better way. But I have a little wax melter tile that I bought on Amazon to actually swirl.
There you go, right there. Melissa has some of those little metal pieces that'll stand off of the mold itself.
Yep.
So just another little tip, Bruce. You can
also
I see.
That's cool.
For the narrower ones, you can use a bobby pin. That works really well also.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's just got to be up off the mold a little bit if you fill it all the way up. So that's kind of.
Yeah, this one is.
But those bend up a little bit, don't they? Yeah.
You do, yeah.
Yep. All right. Was that just on Amazon? What'd you call those?
Candle wick holder.
Okay. I may have to order some of those. Look pretty cheap. Those will be. Yeah, I'll get some of those.
Yeah, I've got some.
Anyway, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Even on a smaller candle, you could just put, you could put the two containers beside and set that on top. But I balance like a utility knife or whatever. I have scissors and I just balance it on there and I put that wick over just right, and it works fine. I mean, say it's right in the middle, so it turned out. I don't know if you can tell that, but it's right there in the middle, so it turned out good. But it's I'm figuring it out. It's kind of fun. It's always fun figuring stuff out.
There's a small let me see here. There's a small little groove in each.
Yeah, you see it grabs the wick.
Yep, the wick. You just slide the wick in there and it holds it tight. And you can, depending on how your mold is set up, when I've done a handful of candles, I haven't done that many. They don't sell around here, so I quit doing them. You can actually pull the wick in on those metal pieces fairly tight.
Yeah, good.
So there's no problem where your wick's going to end up, looking all cockeyed or anything crooked throughout your candle.
While we're talking about candles a little bit, I did want to mention one thing before we move on into a different topic. The lady on Facebook or somewhere she mentioned a couple of things and I wasn't aware of this. I'm just brand new to the candle thing, but first of all, she said you're supposed to, with candles, I don't know if it's just beeswax or any type of candles, you're supposed to cut the wick down to 1/4 of an inch before you light it. And then supposedly burn it no more than 4 hours at a time. I'm not sure why that is, but I didn't do that with that one I burned. Maybe it would have burned longer had I gone 4 hours at a time. Mm-hmm. I've got another one I'm burning now. I've only burned it for the first 4 hours. I may see if it goes longer. It probably will. But I did notice when you cut it down to 1/4 of an inch, it really helps. And after it is done burning, when you put it out, before you light again, you cut it down to 1/4 of an inch again, and it seems to burn more uniform, and it doesn't have this great big long wick sticking out, and so it's really a good idea. These are that wick is actually probably 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch, so it needs to be about half that tall. But I think they look better taller to ship, and some little bears the same way. But it's a good idea probably to cut it down a little bit shorter before you light it. Anyway, just that's what I've been doing. I know, of course, I've been treating my bees. I've been hitting them hard with OAV once a week, but I've been really going down to bottling honey constantly and making candles pretty much every day now for a couple of weeks. And so that's kind of what's been going on here. Plus, we just had a grandbaby yesterday. My daughter, who lives here in town, had her second child and our fourth grandchild. So that was, we've been, it's pretty exciting there. That happened as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Bruce, Michael with 21st Bee had sent me a little bit of information that said, tell Bruce to look at a company called Alumilite for silicone making liquids. They have all different sorts of them for different types of products, it looks like. But yeah, check out all one word, Alumilite, Lite.
Okay. I already bought some. It's almost kind of like an epoxy principle where you mix two. It's got two bottles and you mix them together. And then I guess that makes the silicone you pour it over the mold. So I've got 2 small bottles of that. So I'm going to try that and see how it works, but I may try the Illumilite next time.
Yeah.
I think I've got enough to do at least one of the candles Brian sent me, maybe both of them.
Yeah.
But it could be pretty fun. Brian and I could get in the business of making candle molds for folks. That would be
I'm
fun.
telling you, that's it. What do you need?
Yep, that'd be fun.
You know,
Anyway,
what do you need?
yeah,
I'm going to get a 3D image of Tom. We're going to have like, the bust of Tom.
Oh boy.
candles.
Melissa will want to burn that some days profusely. I mean, just aggressively. She would want to burn that.
As soon as she would open the package, she'd probably light it.
With a torch, you know?
Yeah.
Standing 2 feet away.
Right.
Yeah, Nancy on here mentioned, she said, men talking candles, that's kind of cute. Oh yeah. Okay. Hey, anything that if it can make me a little bit of money here and help supplement my habit, I'm all for it. And I do think they're pretty cool. And but Nancy also mentioned earlier we should do something about doing a queen cell. That'd be kind of a cool candle too for a beekeeping conference. If you did queen cell candle, queen cell upside down or whatever, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know, man. There's all kinds of opportunities. I think people neglect, though. I think a lot of people neglect the wax and the different things. I mean, I don't do pollen or propolis, but that's another opportunity. Things you can use those for. I've never really harvested those things, so but the wax is something that it is a pain in the tail to process wax. It is such a pain, and I've tried the crock pot, which has worked well for me. My system, I had a system that works really well for the crock pot, but the problem I have with crock pots is it's hard to keep it from getting too hot. It kind of turns over, you look kind of a gray or a more white color in the crock pot if it gets too hot, and it loses this honey type smell or the beeswax smell. And then I've tried the solar wax melter. That works fine too. I've got a small one. I don't have a big one, but it just takes it just has to be sunny, and it wasn't big enough. So I have to do it so many times with the amount of wax I had.
Yeah.
And finally I just bought this thing from Jed, and man, it's just incredible. You can stuff that thing full of 25 gallons of wax, and it melts down, and you can almost drain it. I do run it through a little strainer with just a paper towel in there, and it cleans it up perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's just the blocks are just perfect, and so that is a much easier way to do it. It still is a process. It takes a while to do it, to get that much wax to melt down at a not a too hot of a temperature. It takes a couple of days to get it all the way melted down right. If you don't want it to be too hot, and then you have to go through a couple of different processes to get all the wax clean. And the last little bit, honestly, wasn't quite as clean. It just it's hard to get that last tiny little bit perfectly clean. But overall, it's just awesome. So anyway, if anyone wants any candles, I got some on brucesbees.com, and I could put some more on there. I think I got 8 on there maybe now, but I could put more on there if I need to. So, or honey or anything, I do have that website, so you can check it out.
Yeah, those are great for gifts. Everybody from your hairstylist, your mailman, mailwoman, anybody that you come into contact with, throughout the year, it's, a lot of people may know that you do honey, but, adding something like that in there, teachers for your children, whatever it might be, somebody that's important to you, reach out to them around Christmas and send them a little something. You can pour off these smaller candles. You can buy some decent molds on Amazon, depending on what you're looking at, so who knows? Yeah. I think people are kind of intrigued by that. Often when we hear a lot people coming by at the market, and Melissa will do an entire shelving unit full of different candles up there. Some of them themed for the holidays, some of them for just normal everyday. And everybody has their niche and things that they like, but we hear often people say, well, I wouldn't want to burn it. And I'm like, that's specifically what you want to do. I'm like, if you're a candle burner, switch to a beeswax. And then you hit them with a little information. Did you understand and know that beeswax actually purifies the air, where typically most paraffin waxes do not? It'll burn longer, it'll burn brighter, and it burns clean. It's smokeless. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, this is specifically why you need to burn it. And I used the reference the other day, Bruce, and you had done the, on that candle, that pillar candle. Melissa has that one, and it's one of the larger ones that we sell. It's not cheap for that because you use a lot of wax in it. And I asked people, I'm like, what do you think? I said, how long do you think that candle would burn for? And someone's like, 4 hours. And I'm like, try again. I'm like, a friend of mine from down south actually did a test on it. And I'm like, it burned for over 35 hours. And they're like, what? And I'm like, a lot of bang for buck here, you know? So
Oh, for sure.
you definitely want to
Well,
burn.
this little thing burns, and it's, you know, something like this doesn't burn perfectly.
Yeah.
Because it's not a uniform shape. And the one I tested on that burned for 4.5 hours, I believe. And it's only like, it's tiny. It's like 2.5 inches tall.
That's impressive.
Well, here's the difference in them right here. 6 inches versus,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just totally different.
Wow.
And this one's 35 hours, 4.5 hours. But,
Yeah.
and then when this one's done, there's like a little pile of wax in there because it just doesn't burn uniform because the back will fall off and stuff. So I think, to me, these are more kind of a novelty, and yes, you can burn them, but I don't think many people will. I do think that people will burn these, and one of I've had one coworker, a lady that works with me. She works at the hospital. She's a nurse, but she's bought 7 of them, I think. She bought one, and then she had friends. She posted on social media. She actually makes candles out of paraffin. She does a lot of fun stuff with candles, and she loves doing candles and soaps and all that kind of stuff. I think soaps, but anyway, little candle melts. But she so she came back and bought 2 more from me today. But she is super excited about it, and so she's just gone crazy with it. She loves it. She loves the candle. She'll also buy beeswax. I also make little bees to sell people, and she buys those because she uses it in all of her products and stuff. But she's pretty excited about it. So anyway, I told her she should be a distributor.
There you go.
But she actually talked about these would be good for preparation, like prep stuff, like if for storms coming in or for, you know, emergency preparedness. Like you could have these if you need, you know, say burn candles if you don't have any light, you know, you want batteries, flashlights and stuff, but you could burn one of these things. You get 3 or 4 of these things, it could light a room for enough to see, like the old days, for, you know, for days on end if you had 2 or 3 of those things. So
wow.
Anyway, didn't know it was going to turn into a candle making StreamTeam tonight, and the girl apparently Nancy and her friends think it's cute. So
yeah, there.
But anyway,
you do have. Let me see here, Bruce. You got a question there, Toby.
Yeah, Toby. Yeah, I think that was good. I think Toby, that was a good percentage. Hopefully, you don't lose any more throughout the year. That's great. That's not a bad percentage at all. And Toby lives about an hour. He lives probably about an hour north of me here, maybe not quite an hour north of me.
Okay.
He actually came. He got some equipment from Greg when he brought it down. He lives up just north of Ayrton, between Ayrton and Brundage up there, just, you know, not far from us. Probably doesn't live too far from Grayson. I'm not sure exactly where Grayson lives, but he's up around that Troy area too. And so Toby's up in that area as well. But Toby's a great guy. He's done a good job with his bees this year. He's the one that sent me the video when the bees got in the honey house. He left the supers.
Oh,
that was Toby that sent that video.
Oh,
okay.
But he's getting the bee thing figured out. He'll text me or call me, and we'll talk through some issues he's having, and he's turned into a really good beekeeper. I think he's doing great. So
good deal.
But we gotta, you know, I don't count my losses. I don't really keep really good track of my losses, and I don't really count them until we get through the winter. You know, coming out of spring, I like to see what I have coming out of spring, and
yep.
You know, I kind of figure my success out. If, you know, when I'm ready to make splits, whenever that is in the spring, I kind of see that's kind of my number then that I have. And so, yeah, I got to 150, and I have lost a few since then. We just had a dry snap. We had a drought, kind of like what you had, Brian.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any rain for like probably 5 to 6 weeks, maybe one rain in like 5 or 6 weeks. And it got really dry. And we've had a little rain lately just in time for the fall stuff to kick in. So, you know, you got the fall honey smell in the bee yards right now. They're bringing it in. And so I think they're in pretty good shape. I have put some open feed out to them as well. And I really made those late summer splits. I got some more queens from Zach, and I got some from Greg, and made quite a few splits. Some of those didn't make it. It's hard in the summertime to get them to take, but a lot of them did, and a lot of them are looking really good. And so hopefully we'll be able to bust into spring and have another good year next year.
Yeah.
So, Tom, actually, when you and I have talked in the past, I think we have a lot of similar principles when it comes to beekeeping. Obviously, our seasons are a little bit different. You guys do get bitter cold up there. for a time and you shut it down for a time. But I think a lot of the things we do are very similar up there.
Yeah.
I think it's been kind of fun to talk to you about some of those strategies. Tell me what you've done this year. What is your mic control strategy? Because that's something that we haven't talked a lot about lately on the channel, but I think it's, in my situation, like in the past, I've used Apivar has been one of my main things I've used, and OAV were my main two. Then I tried a little bit of Formic just on a few hives. I didn't do all my colonies ever, but I did some few, and it's just so hot down here. It did okay, but I wasn't super impressed by it. It didn't really shut down or kill any queens that I know of, but it didn't seem to be as effective as I'd hope. And I used 2 pads.
Yeah.
I did that just one year. I tried it a couple of times, and then I also have had pretty good success with ApiGuard. I've used it a couple of times. Last year I used that, but kind of what is your strategy? I know Bob Benny's pretty much all organic. I know Greg is pretty much all organic with the thymol and the OA oxalic acid and things like that. What is your strategy for mic control?
Yeah. So just for reference, I've only used organic materials as well. I have never used any of the synthetic stuff, so I can't speak toward it. I can tell you what everybody else says, but again, when people ask me about something, I'm like, I can't speak from experience. I can speak from hearsay and what people tell me. But so my experience lies pretty solely with the ApiGuard product. Oxalic acid is a vapor, but this year, I'll just say the Varaxan, okay, sponge, if you will. And then I also tried this year Formic Pro, actually. So, and I alternate them. And I've had for the last, I'm going through my full 8th year of beekeeping right now. And we've scaled up from first year 8, and we've almost doubled in size every single year. We maxed at 215 colonies, and I've scaled back to 200 through reducing some of them back, taking some losses in the fall. But I'm settled in right around that 200-ish mark, and everything's looking pretty good. And I still have a lot of nukes there too. So generally speaking, what I have done in the past is I've used ApiGuard, but I always time it around, because I always will pull honey sometime in that month of July. I'll say I'll shoot for the July 4th here, but it may or may not happen specifically around there, depending on what I have going on, of course, because it'll pull a week or a week and a half out of my schedule to pull supers, check mites, extract, and get everything in. Well, now it goes into barrels to finish settling out all the way. But we would then immediately thereafter, this year we didn't get to do it because it was a little bit warm when we pulled, but because that ApiGuard does have a threshold, and it says 104, but I'll tell you what, I would never, and I don't typically say never very often, but I would never put ApiGuard on a colony at 104 degrees. I wouldn't even put it on at 95 degrees. I've had some negative experiences with small colonies when it's even running at that high 80s to 90 degree mark. But I typically like to wait and watch the long-term forecast. If I can get 5 days in a row where it drops into the, say, lower 80s, then I don't have a problem putting a full half dose on those colonies and riding at that, because that first initial, it seems like 3, 4, maybe 5-ish or so days is where you really get a lot of that, I guess, initial off gas, and that seems to be really hard on them. And you can tell that by looking at the entrances too, where they'll want to beard outside a little bit. Not always, but that pushes them out the front door a little bit. But we'll usually follow up with that and do 2 rounds. Sometimes if I split the dose down, I'll do because your goal is to hit that that maximum gram mark, for our full month treatment, basically. Sometimes I'll break it up and do it every 10 days just to bring the dose down just a little bit too. So we'll run that for a full month, and we'll go back and check. Most of the time, and I don't do every colony. I'll pick them out of there. So I'm not testing every single colony because I just don't have time. I'd like to, and at some point in time, I'll try to strive to be a little bit better than that. But I'm kind of treating everything as each yard as a whole, basically, and probably some prophylactic treatment there too. But then we'll kind of watch them going through the season, and if we need to follow up with another treatment of that sort, then we'll do it. And then I'll usually come back with oxalic acid vapor when we get into the December, January months and hit it there. And we've had pretty good success, going that route. After listening to Greg Rogers release information that he had done with his sponges and how he worked it, how many there were, how many grams of oxalic acid were in them. I knew immediately when I heard that I wanted to start implementing that to our operation. And we started to do that, not on the production colonies, but on the nukes. So I didn't put any Apiguard on our nucleus colonies. I just used oxalic acid vapor, and then I used this, the Viroxan on there. And that's all I treated them with. Now I need to go back and just do, at this point in time, it would be too little too late, but I'm going to go ahead and do another mite wash to see what that looks like on them, as far as, if it was great and successful or not, what that looks like for the mite numbers there. But so this year I also tried for the first time Formic Pro. We had a nice couple of cool downs. And what I did is, instead of using 2 of the pads at one time, I used 1 pad. And I got this information from Kent Williams, the commercial beekeeper out of Kentucky. Brought him into our club. He had a meeting, and I got to monopolize. I took him out to dinner and monopolized like 2 hours of his time, asking all kinds of questions about things. But he had suggested trying to use 1 pad of the Formic Pro, because generally speaking, what'll happen, much like with Apiguard, when you put it in there, the queen will stop laying for a short period, maybe 3, 4, 5 days or so. So if you can time that out to about your 25-day mark from when you put it in, she'll start ramping back up production again, but you're going to have a small window in there where she has stopped laying. There's going to be some overlap, and the bees that were being capped are now uncapped, and before the other bees start to get, or the other larvae rather, or pupae start to get capped at that point. And then you can hit it with oxalic acid vapor, and that's kind of what we did with that. So we were basically utilizing that forced brood break to use vapor in there to really kind of do a cleanup of sorts. And that seemed to be really helpful too. Just kind of, you're kind of working Mother Nature there, allowing her to kind of force a brood break. And, rightfully, I mean, I was able, instead of using 2 pads, I knocked my cost down because I only used 1 pad. So yes, I'm sure the Formic Pro helped out quite a bit, but then I was able to utilize that, again, forced brood break to then come back with vapor and to kind of do a cleanup. Now, I haven't checked them now in a short amount of time. I need to go out and do a bunch of mite washes and start writing them on the lids of what that looks like, just for reference. But our goal this next year would be to, in the early spring, put the sponges on, and obviously you can run those through supers. And then from there, we'll, run them out for, I can't remember what it was, 40 something days. I need to look at the research again. It was 40 something or 50 something days on the sponges themselves. Pull them, honey will come off, Apiguard, and then we can check them beyond that. And I can throw pads back on, for the remainder of the year. And so the idea would be, rather than having some big spikes, we can kind of, you're going to see some fluctuations, I'm sure, but we can kind of keep them down more of a normal or an acceptable range. I always strive for 1% or less. Now, that's not always a tangible goal, but that's where I try to work at, is trying to stay around 1%, because anything that's at 1% or more, I'll treat it. So with just the idea and thinking that I want to keep them low. I don't want viruses to build up in the colonies. One other information that Kent Williams downloaded to me, and I asked him, I said, you can notice a rejuvenation of the bees, it seems like, after you come off of an Apiguard treatment. Like, they just seemed more, I don't know, the overall look of them and the way that they acted seemed a little bit more vibrant, I guess is the word I might use. And I asked him, I said, why do you think that is? And I said, do you think that is somehow cleaning up the viral loads? And he said, what is actually happening is, he goes, you'll have a viral load internally in the bee, and it may not be heavy. He goes, but you can have what he called virals on the outside, or the exoskeleton of the bee. And he goes, you will knock down those virals or suppress the virals that are on the exoskeleton of the bee with those treatments, but it won't do anything for the internal. He said sometimes you can kind of feed that out, and time will kind of help out with that. He did suggest too that you could play around with like some supplemental stuff, like maybe like a super DFM from the super microbials place. I've used in the past quite a bit, sparingly. So just trying to work with that information that I've been downloaded to me, and trying to make good educated decisions based upon that. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of basically what we've done, and we've had pretty good success in numbers. I would say pretty average as far as our losses. Anywhere between that 18 and say 22, 23% is pretty average. This last year going through winter, if I count my production colonies and my nucleus colonies, my overall loss was 30%. So that would be my highest loss that I've experienced. But if I take the small nucleus colonies out of the equation, my loss was right at 10%. I think that because we had an exceptionally harsh January and February, the late splits that I had made, I wasn't aggressive enough in feeding those colonies. So they lagged and the numbers didn't grow. So I went into winter with some smaller than average nucleus colonies. And I just think it was all a thermoregulation thing. They didn't have the numbers. They weren't able to thermoregulate effectively, especially since basically when we got back from Nabi all the way through most of January, so a good solid 3+ weeks, we were down in some really cold temperatures. I'm talking single digits.
Yeah.
And even a couple nights might even hit negative, which generally doesn't happen in Missouri where I'm at. And then we had a small warm up, and in February went back to the same thing, dropped way off again. And it stayed down there for like 2.5, 3 weeks. So every once in a while, I'll go out with the thermal camera and I'll check heat signatures, or even curiosity, I'll pop lids and just do quick checks. I mean, just a quick, look inside there. Sometimes you can go up to the side of a box and wrap it a couple times and listen. And, if there's a good cluster in there, you'll be able to hear them. So just trying to get an idea what that looked like. So the small nukes, the ones that didn't get pushed out with the first cold spell, I think they probably unclustered for a few days and then had a cluster back up again. And that's extremely hard on those bees. I think that some of them kind of pushed them over the edge with that second round. So I lost a bunch of those. So again, basically our losses, I think, have been reasonable and definitely below average as far as the numbers that are put out there. But still, we want to minimize that to the best of our ability. And
what do you do? Did you do a spring treatment this year, like at the beginning of the year?
I did not actually. So I did some mite washes coming out pretty early on, and we had really low mite numbers on them, and I didn't even bother to do anything. My goal was to get the oxalic acid slow release on them early, and I couldn't get time to make it happen. It just too much going on at that point in time, and it just didn't happen. But that was my goal, to start that regiment this year, but I didn't get most of that going until late season. So next year will be our full year utilizing the slow release oxalic acid.
Have either of you guys looked into the new Naroa?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, the development of that product was done here in St. Louis at Monsanto, which then that information got sold to Bayer. And then from there, it got sold to Greenlight Biosciences. Greenlight Biosciences took all the research, which was actually done by a gentleman named Jim Masucci, happens to be a personal friend of mine here in St. Louis, who did all the field trials between here and in Canada on all that product. So I got a lot of the insider information when it comes to some of the research and things that he could tell me, of course, because he was under a
he had an NDA probably.
He did. So there's things that he couldn't tell me. But I will tell you, Jim's a really smart guy, and I appreciate the knowledge that he is able to help out with. But so I've got a little bit of insight with that. Also, Eric, the gentleman who's the salesman for Naroa or Greenlight Biosciences, I've talked to him extensively a couple different times, and actually, I think I'm going to bring him to St. Louis here for our February conference coming up. As a vendor. So what'll be cool is the guy that did the research is going to be there with me, Brian Zavada, and Jim doing one class or one day of classes through intermediate. So he can kind of maybe disclose and talk a little bit about that. I did actually I sent an email to Greenlight Biosciences because I asked Jim Masucci if he'd come on to a live chat at some point and kind of talk a little bit about it, talk about the research and what that looked like. And he said, well, I'm not sure because of the NDA. And he said, he goes, let me ask. So he asked and he said, okay, you're going to have to email this guy. And his name was Adam. So I emailed Adam asking basically kind of for permission if Jim could talk about it. and what we could do. And I haven't heard back from them yet, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're going to let that happen or not. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that much about it. I'm just going to wait and see on it and see what people say.
yeah,
I was going to purchase a couple of them. I did see you need 2 of the pads per colony. So, when it stays on for 18 weeks, it's a liquid that they have to eat.
yeah,
And then when the Varroa feed, basically the mechanism, when the Varroa are feeding on the honeybee, then it transfers over whatever it is,
yeah,
and then that will shut down the reproduction of the Varroa.
yep,
My only issue up here is I'm like, okay, they're starting to sell it like October 15th or something. I think they said like they were shipping the very first rounds out.
hmm
I'm like, okay, well, it's a liquid. I'm not going to keep liquid on my colony for 18 weeks if they don't eat it all, to go through the whole treatment.
yeah. Well, I think it would be useless to feed this time of year.
Yeah.
I think that even if you bought it, I think it'd be a waste of money, in my opinion. I'm not a scientist. In my opinion, based on what I know of it and how it works as a like you said, it's an interrupter to the life cycle of the Varroa itself. That's what the whole point of this thing is. It's an interrupter, and you would probably want to start on that early in the spring and feed it to specifically the brood nest. You want to get it into the brood nest.
Yep. Yeah. Do you know? And I would think probably the answer is no, but you can't. I mean, you can't have that anywhere near supers.
Yeah, I don't believe that you can utilize it with supers on. Again, don't rely on my information specifically. You would need to go to the website and read all that information for yourself.
Yeah.
Eric, the guy who does the sales for him, and I'm sure he'll be there at Nabi. Stop by the booth and ask him about it. Ask lots of questions. I do some research first and maybe follow up with some questions with Eric there. He's a pretty knowledgeable guy. I'm sure he could help out quite a bit. Nancy posted something on there about Lewis Bartlett, if he would know about the virals or on the outside of the bees and such. That's a good question. Melissa and I were at the Georgia conference, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I had an opportunity to talk with Lewis Bartlett. He did a little bit of a demonstration showing how to test for the resistance of Varroa with the Amitraz product, the Apivar. And so you could take back and kind of, show people at your club. So I actually sat in on that class with him, and I had a little bit of conversation with him. Didn't ask specifically that, but Nancy, I would think that he would probably be a pretty good source when it comes to that. I may have to talk with him a little bit more and ask that question, particularly when we get on the phone together and find out about that. But I've got him delivering a couple of specific talks to our February conference that's coming up. He's going to be there actually. So he was one that I really had high on my priority list and luckily was able to get him. Cornered him at Georgia's, and he was delighted to be able to come. So it worked out, but
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be curious. I need to look into that stuff because if it will, I mean, if you put it on and if coming out of the winter, I think would be the perfect time to put it on.
Yeah.
Agreed. If it's going to maintain your mite levels because they're not able to reproduce, but like the only thing that I would question is about the time frame. Like after you have that on, when can you put supers and things like that? If there's like a pretty large gap there, if you've got to let it go 2, 3, 4 weeks before you put supers on, it's like, geesh, I mean,
I don't remember that you have to do that, Brian, because they talked about you want it fed straight into the brood nest. So you're doing this before supers go on. So obviously this is an early spring treatment for people.
Yeah.
Or that's the way it's going to be the most effective. Is to be an early spring.
Like late March, April.
That'd be about the timeline for me too, because I don't typically put supers on until about the middle of April, maybe after the first 10 days or so, is generally kind of what we're looking at ourselves. So you'd want to feed before then.
We don't get supers on up here until May. So in April up here, I mean, we could still have freezing weather up here.
Yeah.
So
same here.
We're not like Bruce, where you're in flip flops and t-shirts.
Well, not with my bees.
So
except it's better now. So not a lot of flip flops, and you talking about with the bees? Not a lot of shorts.
No,
and
just
t-shirts.
in general.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that way every day, but there are a lot of days in the wintertime where we can go out there and just enjoy the beautiful sun and 70-degree weather.
Hey, is everybody that's in here, is Todd and Brian, are they going live here shortly?
Yeah, so after we were going to finish up, they were going to go live tonight, which is Wednesday, just for this week. But I believe they're going to do it Thursday evenings moving forward. But it's not going to be a weekly event. They described it as maybe a bi-weekly or when they had time. But I think it was going to stick to Thursday evenings. But it is going to start sometime tonight after we finish up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should probably wind things down then here soon, because I know that's going to take us 5 or 10 minutes. At least.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have Greg on here, but Tom's a pretty good replacement as far as like being able to take up some time.
Exactly. He right now is
short story longs.
Melissa asked me if I can plug one thing at Nobby.
Sure.
Okay, so
you're on the big screen. Look at this.
Oh my gosh! Whoa! Hey. So at Wednesday night, before the whole Nobby experience kicks off, there has been, and last year we had a small version of it on Wednesday night. We are going to have basically a get together. I don't want to say dinner because it's not really a dinner specifically. Oh, I hear Melissa stomping down the stairs. She's going to correct me, guys. Watch this. Just watch. You will. So Wednesday night, they're going to have a get together. Oh, look, here's my beautiful wife.
He's technologically not.
Look
capable.
who it is. It's my better half. It's the brains of the operation.
You want to share something with us?
No.
You want a stool? I got a stool right here.
I'm just going to pull this up so you don't have to talk.
No.
Oh, well, talking's part of the fun. Anyway, it's just a get together of beekeepers.
This person next to you, though, we didn't invite anyone else. We just
right?
We just wanted to talk.
It says Tom Sauceman, not Melissa.
And
she wants to hold up and then share it with you, but
Melissa, if you look at his name, it says under his name that he is a legend.
I know. I saw that.
Yeah, Brian did that. Just for reference, I didn't put that on there myself. That was Brian's work. I have no idea. I think he must have somehow logged it onto my computer and there's some really, techie stuff there, I guess.
The only reason he's a legend is because of Melissa.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Fair enough.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, so Wednesday night from 6:30 to 9:30, we have rented a venue space that is already paid for. And we were just going to do basically finger foods, probably do maybe lemonade, tea, water, something like that. And you can BYOB if you are like to take into consume those things. But so you can also bring in your own food and stuff too, basically. This is at a venue, a space that's about 10-ish or so minutes from where the whole Nobby headquarters basically takes place. And it also happens to be where Matthew with the Brews for Beaks, whatever it was. I'm talking backwards here. It's the same venue space.
Here, Brian, can you share that?
That he actually rented. So we're going to use it the night before. So Matthew Doucette with Comfort Pro Suits is going to utilize his Beaks and Brews is what it is Thursday night at this location. And then Wednesday night, it's not us hosting, it's just a conglomeration of just beekeepers. We just
a lot of people that join the live chats is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. So I mean, if you, the top QR code on the right-hand side, that'll scan to get tickets. The tickets are free, but you have to have a ticket because we signed a contract that said we won't have any more than 175 people there, and we're up to like 70-ish or so right now. Now, if you chose, no obligation, no pressure. If you chose and you wanted to donate anything to that for anything as far as raffles, more food, different things like that, there's a Venmo scan down and below on the bottom left. Don't feel obligated. You're welcome to scan that and then donate. But I will ask this. This is Melissa's Venmo, which I don't really like being the collector of the money. But if you're going to donate, put specifically in the notes, it is for the Knobby dinner. Put that in there because Melissa gets a lot of Venmos through the markets and stuff, and I don't want to commingle that money. So we want to make sure to give. And we're also going to pay credit to anybody that wants credit for the donations. We're going to have a list on there on each one of the tables showing who donated and how this was made possible. Again, the idea is to keep it completely free with no cost. Just people can sign up free to come, and it's going to be a great networking event. I know there's going to be a few vendors that are going to be there for sure. We are going to have some products to just give away that vendors have graciously donated. So it's just going to be a great social hour. For people to get together, fellowship, exchange stories, and participate in a little bit of light food. So
any money that's donated that's not used for the event will be donated to Hives for Heroes.
Yeah. So if there's excess money left over, we're not going to keep it. I don't want to hang on to it for any future events. We're going to donate that check straight to Hives for Heroes there. So it'll just be donated
Good
straight.
deal.
So anyway, if people are interested, feel free to hit that QR code and come. If you don't want to come, great. But I actually think that we can sell this out.
We had 50 plus people last year, and right now with it only being advertised for like the last couple weeks, there's already just under 70 people signed up. So
yeah,
if you want to come, reserve your ticket.
So basically, Brian, Bruce, scan it. We're expecting to see you guys there. That's the short of it.
I'm looking for, where's that posted at?
Well, it's so if you go like on Facebook, it's posted to Via Honeybees for one. So you can go on VIA or Via Honeybees and look on the Facebook there. It is posted there, but it's also posted on the Facebook page called No Life Beekeepers.
It's on the No Lifers? Okay.
Yeah. Now, Chris Madeira has actually said he was going to share this at some point in time, but what we were kind of doing is delaying on him sharing it so that the group that we always converse with in these chats and stuff has first opportunity to reserve tickets for it. Because again, I mean, they made me sign explicitly that I can't have more than 175 because if I hit 200, I have to hire security according to the, otherwise they're going to hit me with like a $600 fee and all kinds of stuff. And I'm not really looking to go breaking any rules, even though I do a lot of that with Melissa. I'm going to try to run the straight and narrow on this one to the best of my ability. So it'll just be a great networking event and just a fun time. So that's really all it is.
For anybody that gets to Knobby the day early.
Yeah. That'll, like I said, that will be on Wednesday. So that's right before Knobby, kicks off on Thursday. So
yeah,
if you're in town, come on.
I'm going to share. I zoomed in on the QR codes there.
Sure.
That way they show up a little clearer. There we go. Hopefully.
Yeah. Right now we did get a gracious donation to cover the entire.
Oh, I don't want that.
The entire venue space. So at this point in time, any donation we get will be for food, drink, finger foods, things like that. And if people chose to and said, hey, we'd rather have this, there's a great pizza place that's pretty close by called Craft House Pizza. Amazing pizza, honestly. We were going to maybe have some pizzas and stuff there too, if that's what people.
If we get enough donations.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you can bring your own food to the venue.
Yeah, you can bring your own food as well. The only thing I'll say that on the contract we signed, for whatever reason, it didn't say anything about wine bottles, but you can't bring glass beer bottles. Again, I don't know. It's not my place. So
safety.
Yeah. It didn't say anything about glass wine bottles, but you can't have any glass. So unfortunately, since my name's signed to it, I can't let you in with that. So
yeah.
Anyway, we just want to be respectful to the facility's wishes and such. So
that's safety.
Yeah.
Melissa's going to get a Venmo that comes across, and it's going to say something like, "For Friday's bourbon run."
So that's coming from JW.
Like,
Is that?
she's going to be like,
Mr.
"What?"
Irwin himself.
Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah.
I got to figure out if I'm even going down there just yet.
Well, if you are, Brian, I expect to see you there.
Yeah.
Hey, another fun topic too. The Midwest Honeybee Expo. You know what I'm talking about? Up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, in Wisconsin. Yeah.
There's going to be some special guys, I think, going to be there doing some.
Us three.
Trainings. Yeah.
The StreamTeamers are going to be up there. Yeah.
They will be there. We actually got invited now. Doug Coulterman and Bill Warning, great guys who are running that conference. Solid individuals. Did a fabulous job last year on it.
Yeah.
Melissa and I went and enjoyed ourselves, did some networking, but they invited us this year actually to teach a comb class. So Melissa and I will actually be presenting a comb class. Hopefully we can sell out one and actually do a second one. So do a 2-day class, but we have to sell out the first one first. So
if one of the StreamTeamers' jobs is to go around and, film some content in that, I mean, I might be in the audience heckling.
I like it. Bring the freshest tomatoes, please. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Heckle away. I can handle it.
Yeah. Well, we've got like 7 minutes to wrap things up, and then we're going to be stepping on Brian and Todd's toes. So, yeah. So what in the next week down in your neck of the woods, are you doing anything with the bees, Tom?
Not this week. I'm going to finish up painting that HDO lids and screen bottom boards because Melissa and I have the Missouri State Beekeepers Association conference coming up on Saturday. So we have to leave Friday to head to the other side of Missouri, which is in Kansas City or near Kansas City. We have 2 presentations we're giving, and we're also helping. Melissa and I are on the board for Missouri State as well. So we're going to be donating our time for that as well. So we'll be out there for Friday and Saturday, and then I come back Saturday night and then, church and family time on Sunday. And then next week I'll be doing some feeding actually. So I need to get back, and this will be my 4th round of feeding, but it's only going to go to colonies that need it because I've done a pretty good job on the 3 rounds that I've done over the last several weeks. But at this point in time, we're basically just going to utilize that to kind of just fatten them up per se. So we're not going to do any light syrup mixture. We're going to do a straight, probably between 1.5 and 2 to 1, somewhere in there. Okay. A little heavy syrup mixture, and I'm going to put those to the colonies that specifically need it. So that's kind of ours. We're kind of getting the tailing end of again our season, much like you, Brian, and just making sure that the food stores are in place. We've already checked for queen rightness and making sure the queens are good. Could still have some failures between now and then, but at this point, everything seemed to be in pretty good order. I'm going to do some final mite washes just to double check numbers on things. And then, getting ready to button up for the winter.
Good deal. Up here, and Bruce, you're going to have to finish it out. But up here, there's not much. I mean, I'm doing OAV. So I'm in that like every 5-day kind of treatment plan right now. So that's all I'll do every 5 days. I'll pop over, instant vape. I'll be there for, I don't know, half hour. Probably also when I go over to do my OAV, I'll just check feed also at the same time. So that's kind of it right now. It's just kind of ride the weather pattern, and when it gets to that freezing point, then the syrup's going to come off, and then I'll kind of play it by ear to add on the fondant. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of wrapped up here. But the only other thing coming up in the next week for me is this Sunday, I'm going to the Bee Club, the larger club that I go to, and it is their fall banquet, and they're voting on whether I will be a vice president or not. So,
hey,
vice president is stepping down. She just is kind of, it just, I mean, after some time, you just kind of want to step back a little bit. She had approached me like 2 or 3 months ago and asked me about it. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what, it might be a good thing. So, and the current VP, she said she doesn't want to completely step away. There'll still be a couple things that she said that she'd help with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do it.
That's good.
So the wife and I were going to that banquet on Sunday, and I'll find out. Maybe they want me, maybe they don't. So, but that's all. I mean, up here, yeah, we're pretty much wrapped up. So, not much going on. I see Mr. Medeiros is in here. So,
yeah, he was on the chat with Corey Stevens earlier on his thing, and that's where I was at before I logged on with you guys.
Oh, okay, good deal, Mr. Bruce.
Well, I'm just going to be hitting them again with OAV this weekend, and
Yeah,
I'll be making more candles and pouring more honey and just doing what I'm doing. Not really a lot going on here either. The real busy time, believe it or not, is about the first of the year here. It just starts getting crazy. So that's when the bees kind of start ramping up. I think typically the red maple starts to bloom in January, and that gives them enough to stimulate them, and then it's off to the races again. And the last couple of years I've split in mid-February. So as Zach's in here, I know I've been trying to talk him into sending me doubling my order. I don't know if he's going to be willing to do or able to do it this year, but I've got a lot of opportunities in the spring, so I hope he can get me some extras in the February, March timeframe this year. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I can keep him alive through winter. And I think, I did have some mite issues, and late, like when I tested them, like in July, August, and so. They're higher than I want them to be, or they were. And I know they say OAV with brood doesn't work very well, but if you hit them often enough and for a long enough period of time, I've found that it does knock them back. It can knock them back. And so that's what I'm doing now. So that's where we're at. We'll see how it looks in a couple of weeks when I do some more mite checks. But anyway, so I guess it's about time to wrap this thing up, Brian. We appreciate all you guys. I know, Tom, you're a great asset to the beekeeping community. We're glad you're willing to come on. It says legend by your name. You're right up there in the same stratosphere as Charlie and them. He's also a legend. So.
Charlie's way above me. I know Charlie's way up here. I'm just like a shadow of Charlie.
Charlie's in high orbit.
He is, right?
Yeah. But anyway, we appreciate you coming on, man. We appreciate everyone being in the chat tonight. We had a pretty good number in here tonight, and we had a real good discussion. We talked about everything from, what we're doing now with our bees to mite control to candles, to beeswax candles. And so we had a good time with this thing tonight. It's good to have you guys in here tonight.
Yeah.
And just remember, everybody, to try and be a good influence to those around you. And I'm going to try and do this justice here. Just remember to # be the lighthouse and be the change that you want to see in this world. Y'all take care.